Cryo needs a buff, but how does Genshin do it? How does Genshin take the element that they, well, purposely threw in the trash and buff it? Also, did you notice that because I'm in Dragon Spine, my little pet over here is like cold? Look at that, he's in his little egg. The first thing we need to do will come into the next patch, 5.2. And Genshin needs to update the Blizzard Slayer artifact set. The artifact set is strong but has a huge issue, mainly with the Abyss. Boss enemies can be frozen, but if you hit them with Cryo and Hydro, you still get the frozen reaction. So Genshin needs to update the wording in the artifact set. Something along the line as, if an enemy is hit with the frozen reaction, crit rate will go up by 20%. Therefore, at least you could still use freeze teams against boss enemies and not lose 20% crit rate over nothing. I also think that the frozen reaction should slow down boss enemies in some sort of way. If you guys don't know, in Genshin, a power creep is coming. In the 4.8 Abyss and the 5.1 Abyss, some enemies have legit gained almost a million HP. So Genshin really needs to do something about this element quickly because it is falling off slowly and it hasn't gone back up in a minute. Another thing that needs to be changed is the elemental reaction multiplier for Cryo. Superconduct needs to be changed massively. The reaction itself should be buffed a little bit by doing a little bit more damage, and instead of physical resistance only dropping by 40%, it should be around 50 or even 60%. Some enemies have some high physical resistance. And also, Melt needs a buff. There isn't that many reactions for Cryo, so if an enemy has Pyro applied on them and you hit them with the Cryo attack, instead of the 1.5 multiplier, it needs to be changed to 2 times. The next thing they gotta do will come within the next couple patches, maybe 5.3, 5.4, maybe even 5.5. But they have to release Lolly because she is guaranteed to be Cryo, unless they do what they did to Chaska. I want her to be one of two things. I want it to be a Cryo sub DPS or off-field DPS, one on the level of Fischl, Shangling, Xingqiu, Yalan, someone who can actually shine. Or two, you can make her a 4-star Cryo support because last time they gave us a 5-star Cryo support, they chose not to rerun her more than once, so let's just keep away from that. Now, if they plan on making her a 5-star character, especially if it's a 5-star sub DPS, I also hope they put some support in there, something that maybe buffs attack for the main character or on-field DPS or maybe even elemental mastery. And if they plan on making her a pure 4-star support, I hope the same thing. I hope that she could buff EM for people and attack for people, maybe depending on their element. For example, Geo, Hydro, and other crowd characters could get attack, while the rest of the elements can all get elemental mastery. I think that would be actually pretty good. And maybe she could provide some energy too for the team. I truly believe that they can make a really strong Cryo sub DPS. Even though there's not a lot of elemental reactions with it, I 100% think that they can make her very strong, especially because Pyro works so well with Cryo. If they do make her a 4-star support, I'm hoping for a level like Chevreuse type of 4-star support. Because Chevreuse just helps so much for overload teams. It legit went from being a bad team to a good team just because of her. They can easily do the same with Lolly. They can make Cryo just a lot better because of her. The next thing they would do would come in patch 5.6. If you see in this cutscene, Captain is a sword user and he uses an ice sword. I think you see where I'm going with this. On top of him using an ice sword, he does have the male body type like Diluc, Zhongli, Ito, just that big male body type, so I do believe he'll be playable one day. Now, Captain or Capitano should be a high tier DPS. He is number 1 of the Fatui, so he should be stronger than Arlecchino in game. At least that's just my take. So my honest thought is that he should be one of, if not the strongest main DPS in the game. On the levels of Neuvillette, if not a little bit worse at least. But with this kit should come 2 new artifact sets. A brand new artifact set for physical and shatter characters, and a second artifact set that is specifically made for Melt, because we currently don't have a Melt artifact set. Even though we have good ones for Melt teams, we don't have a dedicated Melt artifact set. Now I'm trying to think about one off the top of my head, but let's say for the physical damage. The 2-piece will give 25% physical damage, while the 4-piece will take down physical resistance of the enemy. If you hit them with Superconduct, they could take it down by an extra 20%, maybe even 30%. Another thing they could do that could make it really good is add crit rate and crit damage. That's what they did for Marie-Chaussee, and that's what they did for Obsidian, and they're both insane artifacts. For example, each time you hit an enemy with physical damage, you could gain 2 crit rate and 4 crit damage, up to 10 crit rate and up to 20 crit damage. Or even go a little bit crazier with 15 and 30. And make it 3% instead of 2%. It doesn't need to be something insanely long or something insanely big, it just needs to be strong for a character. But since physical is so bad, you could throw in a tiny bit of attack into there. And the last part should increase damage done by shatter to enemies, maybe by double. The second one could be a Melt artifact set giving Cryo damage as a 2-piece, The 4-piece is a lot harder to think about in my head, but it could give you damage percentage, EM, and attack percent. Just depends on maybe who's your team, maybe what reactions you cause. It doesn't need to be insanely strong. Cryo does have good characters. It's the reaction that kind of sucks. It's the fact that freeze can no longer be used in the abyss because how many boss enemies are there. It's the fact that there's just so many better elements in the game. I honestly think that Cryo can be saved pretty soon, and I think it should be saved before Snezhnaya, because Snezhnaya and the Cryo Archon shouldn't save the element. It should just enhance it from being good to amazing. But that's just my take. Genshin and Hoyoverse would do a way better job than I would at fixing Cryo, but so far they haven't started. So let me step in, let me tell them what they could do, let me tell them what they should do. I also think Geo does need fixing, but I can save that for another video, because Geo is lacking on characters, especially 4 stars. They have some decent 5-star characters, I'll be honest. But look, if y'all enjoyed the video, leave a like down below, sub, do all that, and join my Discord down below. Take care.